right now on 5 on your side at 10.
Mornings slipping and sliding to a soaking overnight rain. Why tonight's rain should help with our overall dry conditions.
Too iced to handle. It is the video seen by millions tonight. The message from first responders after their fire truck spun out of control in a Jefferson County neighborhood.
Hey, if it can happen to us, it can happen to anyone.
And the deal is off, but the controversy for Clayton schools may not be over.
First tonight, a live look at the roads. They're just wet right now thanks to warmer temperatures. What a difference a few degrees and hours make. Earlier today, the pavement was a sheet of ice leading to treacherous travel. Good evening, I'm Mike Bush.
And I'm Kelly Jackson. The freezing rain has changed over to rain, and it should stay that way. Weather First Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell is here to tell us what we can expect overnight and in the morning, Scott.
Well, I can tell you, your morning commute tomorrow morning will not be anything like the morning commute we had this morning, that's for sure. Temperatures have warmed above freezing. It is going to pour overnight tonight for many of us. Some of us may get a whole inch of rain just during the overnight hours. Storm systems down to our south. We have all that warm air being pulled up over the cool air that's over St. Louis. And boy, is it squeezing like a sponge and dropping a lot of moisture across the bi-state region. Here's the good news. As this shield of rain is pushing in, temperatures aloft are so warm that the raindrops themselves are actually in the 40s right now. So those temperatures, the raindrops, are too warm to really freeze, even though Litchfield and Carrollton are right around 32 degrees. Most of us are not seeing any additional icing, and in most cases, much of the ice that we saw earlier today has melted. Now, it is going to pour overnight for many of us. We do expect this rain to continue with steady to rising temperatures. We'll get a little bit of a break tomorrow, but then there's more rain for Tuesday night. Just getting us through tomorrow morning, how much rain are we looking at? From now until tomorrow morning, there'll be some spots east of St. Louis over towards Carlisle Lake, Nashville, where you could see 3/4 of an inch to an inch. We may be pushing 3/4 of an inch around the metro area. Badly needed rain since we've been in a drought, but no ice tomorrow morning.
All right, we'll check in with you in just a few minutes, Scott. Well, the roads were treacherous this morning for everyone, including first responders.
Yeah, this is video of a Rock Community fire truck sliding down a hill near Imperial, and it's made national news. New tonight, our Laura Barczewski talked with the chief and neighbors about this viral video turned safety lesson. Laura?
Mike and Kelly, it was scary for everyone involved, and while some of the outcome was luck, the fire chief says the driver did everything he possibly could to make sure everyone walked away from this crash. Neighbors saw the fire truck weighing more than 56,000 pounds barrel down the ice-covered hill near Imperial, meeting the same fate as the driver they were called out to help.
Right at like 7 o'clock. So we woke up to a loud crash. The blue Chevy Cruze crashed into my car and then was lodged on top of the fire hydrant and electrical box. So we advised her to get out of her vehicle, come over, to safety on the porch.
Caitlin Boise says they then called 911, and while they were waiting, a pickup truck slid down the hill on Parkside Place, followed by the Rock Community fire truck, which slammed into the blue car before sliding into the grass, narrowly missing the tan house.
We were immediately running over to check on them. If it wasn't for the blue car already being lodged in front of the tree and on the fire hydrant, I do think that the fire truck would have flipped once it hit the tree. So in all honesty, it turned out okay. He was a really great driver. So
Rock Community Fire Chief Kevin Wingbermuley says his drivers have more than 240 hours of training, and it paid off on Monday.
So although it happened really quickly, they did have a few seconds, and that's what they're trained to do, is to stay calm and think on their feet. And he made some adjustments to the truck. He had an exit plan, or a plan B, if you would, to avoid further damage.
The chief says the truck even had tire chains in place to try and prevent as much sliding as possible. But no one was going to be invincible in this situation, making it a safety reminder for all.
Hey, if this stuff can happen to us in a 50,000-plus pound truck, it can happen to anybody. And people really need to remind themselves of that when they get out in these hazardous conditions, that in a split second, a lot of things can change.
The chief tells me they actually didn't have to respond to as many crashes today as they had with similar events like this previously, and we're grateful many people were able to stay off the roads. Kelly.
Amazing, amazing story. Thank you, Laura. Many drivers had a hard time staying on the road all morning. That includes a St. Louis City salt truck that slid into a grocery store that's on North Broadway. We were told no one was in the building at the time and the driver was sent to a hospital. The icy roads this morning caused a Metro bus driver to slide into several parked cars in South St. Louis. This was at Cherokee and Gravois. We don't know if anyone was hurt. Metro did suspend services for a time this morning. And in St. Charles County, 2 semis jackknifed on Interstate 70 in Wentzville. Crews got them straightened out and reopened the interstate. There were no reports of injuries. And here's a live look at St. Louis Lambert International Airport. All runways are back open tonight. We just checked, and there are still a few delays and cancellations. It was a different story this morning when all flights were halted at one point due to icy runways.
New tonight, investigators still piecing together a fire that killed 2 people at an East St. Louis boarding house. It happened early Saturday morning on North 13th Street. 5 on your side's Robert Townsend tells us what he's learned about the victims.
1 minute, Wayne Wallace was sound asleep, but in a flash,
the fire department was beating on my window to get out. I thought it was my house.
Once outside, he saw the boarding house next door was on fire. Investigators say the flames swept through the building around 5 Saturday morning.
But yeah, it was scary. It was very scary. Yeah, it was a very big fire.
He says 3 men and 1 woman lived at the boarding home that quickly went up in flames.
When I jumped up on my bed and looked out, I can see the flames from the reflection from the house across the street.
Wallace says before firefighters arrived, a young guy in his 30s jumped out of a second-story window, and another man, possibly in his 60s, got out in the nick of time.
The guy jumping out the window, he just got out the hospital, and then the old man, they got out the side door. God praise him because he's on a cane.
But the news wasn't good for a third man and woman. Wallace tells me the woman was initially outside, but then he says she ran back inside this burning building to try to save her trapped friend, but sadly, both died.
She was a nice lady, help anybody. He was a cool guy. He was pretty nice. I met him a couple of times. He was a pretty nice. He was outgoing. He was a pretty good guy. Man, all my love go out to their families, man.
That from a neighbor who wishes this never happened.
Every time I come home, I'm traumatized because I got to look at that and know that people died next door to me. That's unfortunate.
In East St. Louis, Robert Townsend, 5 on your side.
Right now, investigators don't know what caused the fire or if the building had smoke alarms. The Red Cross will help the 2 survivors.
Tonight, the controversial sale of the Caleres headquarters site to the Clayton School District is now a no-go.
5 on your side's Annie Kroll spoke with developers, community leaders, and the district about what comes next. Annie.
Well, the Clayton School District announcing today in an email their final decision to not sign off on the purchase of the prime 9-acre real estate to make what they call an empowerment campus.
The Clayton School District announcing Monday it will not purchase the Caleres headquarters land for almost $21 million. Clayton School District saying in a letter, although a significant number of attendees at last week's public forum expressed reservations about the acquisition, we also received strong support for moving forward with the purchase.
In the meeting that was held with the citizens, it appeared to me and many of the rest of us that every single board member had a different view for what was going to be happening to that property.
Vocal opposition during a Board of Education meeting last Wednesday about transforming the 9 acres on Maryland Avenue into an empowerment campus.
Where are the students coming from in the next 10, 15, 20 years is my question. So thank you, and be aware that pushing this through, as you definitely seem poised to do, there doesn't seem to be any evidence that you're changing your mind, is going to poison the relationship with a community for decades to come.
Developer Michael Steinberg, involved in planning for potentially an office and entertainment space there, said he's glad a decision was finally made. The city and school district didn't want to lose potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual tax revenue through future retail and residential development. Former Mayor Linda Goldstein called the acquisition unwise, hoping for commercial development in the area.
I hope that our community gets back to normal. You know, we don't usually have this much controversy.
Now, when we reached out to the Clayton School District, they told us this evening that all of the earnest funds, which totaled $500,000, will be returned after today's termination. The Board of Education still prioritizing an updated long-range facilities plan, saying it's been 15 years since the last master plan was completed. Mike?
Annie, thanks. In just hours from now, voters in New Hampshire will head to the polls for the first in the nation presidential primary. It's now a two-person race for the Republican nomination. Tonight, both former President Donald Trump and Nikki Haley were out campaigning.
70% of Americans have said they don't want a Trump-Biden rematch. The majority of Americans disapprove of both Biden and Trump.
When you step into that voting booth, you're going to be signaling that we want crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country. We got to get him out.
New Hampshire is known for surprise results, but polls show Trump leading by double digits. If that holds up, it could signal an end to the GOP race.